I'm Timothy Vigil, and this is Just Another Word podcast, the Word of the Day podcast for storytellers. O is for onomatopoeia. Hear the sledges with the bells, silver bells. What a world of merriment their melody foretells, how they tinkle, tinkle, tinkle in the icy air of night. Edgar Allan Poe, The Bells. Most of us first encounter onomatopoeia in a comic book or an elementary school classroom. We might think of pow, bam, and zip, of a superhero landing a punch or a race car tearing across the page. But onomatopoeia is far more than a sound effect in a bubble. It's one of the most primal tools we have as storytellers. A way to bypass the logic of the brain and hit the listener directly in the ear. The word onomatopoeia itself is quite the mouthful, but its history is straightforward. It comes from the Greek onoma, meaning name, and poiena, to make, literally means the making of a name. It is the act of naming a thing after the very sound it produces. We do this so naturally that we often don't even realize we're doing it. Look at Poe's description of the silver bells. They tinkle. The word uses light, high-frequency consonants to physically mimic the sharp, delicate strike of metal on metal. We have made these names out of the air itself, bridging the gap between a silent thought and a physical vibration. It is our literal attempt to make the same sound, or at least make a sound that makes us think of the real sound. The real power of onomatopoeia for a storyteller lies in the words we use without thought. It isn't just about the loud noises, the bangs and pops and booms. It's about the subtle textures of reality. We are surrounded by words that are secretly performing the actions they describe. Think about the way that we talk about movement or texture or light. Many words we don't traditionally classify as sound effects are actually deeply onomatopoeic. Words like thud, clatter, or clink are words that talk about impact. The hard consonants at the end of these words act as a physical stop, mimicking the moment one object hits another. We use them without thinking that we're using an onomatopoeia, but they are natural and common. When we talk about the flow of liquid, we might use slosh or drip or gurgle, each of them giving us a visceral sense of what is happening with that. Because these words are actually imitating the sound that that liquid would be making while performing that action. These all use soft vowels and L sounds to mimic the way that water moves and settles. With the friction of life, we have words like rustle and crackle and scratch. The S and CH sounds create actual friction in your mouth. Think rustle. Echoing the sound of dry leaves or a pen on paper. There are so many examples of words like this that we might not necessarily think of as onomatopoeic. But what they do is they create little places where we can sneak sense into our writing. The pen rustled is much better than the pens moved across the page. We have this great opportunity to sneak in places with small indications of the actual sound of our stories. where we can get the reader to stop thinking and start feeling the story. When we're conscious of onomatopoeia, we can move beyond the obvious. Instead of telling the reader that a room was loud, we can use words that make the room loud for them. Instead of saying he walked through the dry leaves, you could say he crunched the dry leaves. The word crunch forces the reader's mind to hear the sound before they've even finished the sentence. It's a simple change. He crunched through the leaves, but it evokes a sense of feeling. We can hide onomatopoeias in sentences. You can look for these words that evoke a feeling through their phonetics. Words like slither and grumble and whisper. They don't just describe an action, they perform it. We can choose these over words like moved or complained or spoke quietly, and you create an immersive 3D experience for your audience. The secret of onomatopoeia is really just the secret of word choice. But what you should be thinking about with your word choice is, where are these places where I can create multiple things with one word? Slither gives us a sense of movement, but it also gives us a sense of creepiness. It reminds us of snakes moving along the ground. It creates some sinister nature as well. It does multiple things with one word. Onomatopoeias almost always do this. They create a sense of sound, but they also create a sense of ambiance. See, if you're writing a scene in a forge, you could use hard, percussive words like clank, hammer, thrum. If you're writing a scene in a library, use soft, sibilant words, hush, rustle, and sigh. And you're essentially composing a soundtrack with your prose. Each of these words has a different ambiance that they create. The noise is there, and yes, that's important in the main thing it's doing. But if you're talking about a forge scene, like I said, and it's clank, 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 that might evoke something in your reader that says, is this person even good? They keep clanking. You could use a different word, the soft thrum of the hammer beating against there could make it feel like this is intentional, it's rhythmic. So our word choice can both evoke sound and evoke competency or some other form of environmental understanding of what's going on. Ultimately, onomatopoeia reminds us that language isn't just a code for ideas, it's a physical experience. It's a bridge between the silent page and the noisy world. So don't just look for the pows and the bams when you're thinking about onomatopoeia. Look for the words that breathe, the words that click, the words that hum. Be conscious of the sounds you're making. And your readers won't just see your story, they'll hear it and they'll experience it. You have been listening to Just Another Word podcast with your host, Timothy Vigil. For more information, go to timothyvigil.com.